It's the idea that Jason Garrett is not the right coach for this team. And I know that they've spent look, give Jerry Jones credit. We knock him for the nonsense that he throws out there all the time and the fact that he's always talking about the Super Bowl and everything that goes with Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones. He's a brilliant businessman. We know this. The Cowboys are ridiculously valued, the highest valued sports franchise in the world, basically. And we knock them because they haven't won a championship since the mid-'90s. But for the first time, it feels like in a while, he started to build this thing the right way. And we heard this around the conversation with Zeke and his contract extension. You have a core, offensive line, defensive front seven that's solid and sound. You have an elite group of position players and skill position players on offense with your quarterback, your wide receiver, and your running back, not dissimilar to how they did it back in the mid-'90s. And it finally feels like all the pieces for the Cowboys are falling into place. And so we give them credit for that. The one person we haven't been giving credit to is Jason Garrett, who is their head coach, who's been on the, I don't know, the quasi-hot seat, because it's not really the hot seat. Jerry Jones wasn't going to ever fire him, at least not in the short term, but he doesn't have a contract for 2020, Jason Garrett. So it kind of is like he's on the hot seat, literally. He's coaching for his job. But when you look back at what he's done, 3 division titles in the last 5 years, 2 of the last 3, a Coach of the Year award in the process, picking up Dak Prescott and having to thrust him into the starting lineup and getting to the postseason that year after Tony Romo goes down. He's actually done an unbelievably good job, but he doesn't get the credit for it. I mean, Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator this year. I know Kellen's a good football mind, but a lot of that comes from the direction of Jason Garrett, who's been with the Cowboys forever. He played there for 9 years, and he was his assistant coach for a little while. Now he's been the head coach for almost 10 years now. Jason Garrett deserves some credit here, but the problem is because of the platform that Jerry wants them on, the only way he's going to get credit is if he gets it internally. I mean, only way he's going to get credit outside of the organization is if he gets it inside the organization. And the only way he's getting it inside the organization is if he gets to an NFC championship game, a Super Bowl, and ultimately wins a Super Bowl title. It's the most bizarre thing to think about because for so long we've put Jason Garrett on this. Well, he's not the right coach for the Dallas Cowboys, yet his success belies that. And it took time. I mean, there was a moment like 4 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, he was about 500. It didn't seem like Jason Garrett was anything special, but it's a lesson on time and patience. And as much as we knock Jerry Jones, the one thing you got to give him credit for is that he gave Jason Garrett, had patience with Jason Garrett and gave him time to build something that is working. And right now, they got to be one of the favorites to get to and maybe win a Super Bowl this year.
He's not brash. He's not bold. He's not particularly stylish, but he's effective. I think that's a fair way to look at it.
That's exactly the way to look at it. And sometimes if you're an effective coach and not the rah-rah, I'm going to kill you with X's and O's type, like Sean McVay type head coach, you have to be that way. Right? You have to build and let superstars be superstars. And he's doing a good job of that. You know what I mean?
He is doing a good job. You know what I think is interesting? This happened with George Steinbrenner as well, and it's starting to happen. I think it has happened probably going back a year or two with Jerry. The most bombastic, unpredictable owners historically in all the sport, and I just mentioned 2 of them, they generally become much more docile as they age. And they go from being incredibly impatient to having more patience than almost the most patient person.
Right.
It's very weird how that happens.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I maybe
starting to sense their mortality as
maybe a loyalty, a familiarity. Maybe there's, hey, you know what, I trust this person. Do I want to really go through the beginning stage of a new relationship when I'm 75, whatever the age might be? Yeah. Do I have the mindset? Do I have the energy to do that? Listen, there's circumstances with Dallas that certainly has I'm happy you illuminate the good, because there is a lot of good here. And Dak hasn't signed the contract yet. He doesn't look at all as if he's bothered by that.
No,
He's flat out balding.
He knows it's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. And he's going to be, right now, he's top 3, top 4 MVP.
Right.
There was a lot of noise. Zeke this, Zeke that, Zeke this. Yeah, Zeke showed up, and Zeke is once again Zeke. No problem there. You look at really even trading for Amari Cooper. Haven't heard much about that contract situation.
No.
It's going along in a very quiet, very efficient, very professional, just a professional march, almost like an efficient conveyor belt. Everybody's doing their job. And I think we want more. We almost lust more from certain teams. We need dysfunction. We need that crazy, bizarre, zany press conference. They're strangely normal.
Yeah, and that's a good thing for them, because it hasn't felt that way in a long time. And I'm trying to pull up their stats now. I mean, they're a top 5 offense. They're a top 5 defense in points. Yards, they're top 3. I mean, they're giving up a bunch of yards on the defense, middle of the road, but that doesn't matter as long as you're keeping teams out of the end zone. And that's somewhat of a philosophy of Rod Marinelli, who is their defensive coordinator. And so they have talent on both sides of the ball. So for the first time in a long time, I feel like it's real. Right? You could tell me the Dallas Cowboys were a good squad 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever it may be, but I never felt like it was real. It's yeah, okay, but they're not there yet.
I know what you mean.
And whether it was the coach,
I know what you mean,
right?
Yeah.
Jason Garrett,
or Dak,
who's too young,
or the defense.
Man, has that defense really got difference makers on that side of the ball? There's no question marks anymore. And even Jerry Jones, who would often get in the way, even if it was rhetorically, he's even pulled back and gotten quieted down. And maybe it's because he's 76 years old and he knows that, man, there's like 10 more years I'm going to have at my peak.
Hopefully, God willing, sure.
My mind fully engaged in all of this.
Or maybe he's smart enough to finally realize everything he's been chasing the past 20 years, he actually finally has.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Think about that. When you don't have what you want, you drive yourself nuts. When you think you finally have it, you exhale. And you let other people do the talking.
Yeah.
And the talking that's done on a weekly basis is Dallas playing efficient football. You mentioned a bunch of stats here. I think the one that might be most pertinent to their long-term success is their third down conversion rate. Mm-hmm. They're number 1 in football, nearly 60%. Now, we have to be very fair. Who they play in week 1?
Yep.
They play the Giants with Eli. Not a good team.
Bad defensive Giants
Horrendous.
team.
Who'd they play in week 2? The Redskins. Dysfunctional. We crushed them yesterday there. London Fletcher, one of their best players. London Fletcher. Who did they play in week 3? The Dolphins.
Yeah.
They were 22.5-point favorites. They were up 10-6 at the half. They had to pour it out of cover, which they eventually did. Thank you, because I took them. I laid the points, and it actually worked.
Yeah, but
so who have they played?
But in those games, They've won, and they've scored 35 points, 31 points, 31 points. They've done what they're supposed to do. The NFL, look, you don't blow teams out. 59, what was that Baltimore game against Miami? 59 to 10 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the National Football League. I don't care if a team is atrocious. It doesn't happen. What you're supposed to do when you play an atrociously bad team is beat them 31-6, like the Dallas Cowboys did over the Miami Dolphins. Those guys are professionals too. They're figuring it out a little bit in Miami. Not even close to being
played hard.
Viable, but they'll play hard because they have professional pride. And so you're never going to 59-10 a team unless you're Baltimore, and you do that in week 1 to the Miami Dolphins. But you take care of business, and let's also not forget. Against a team like the Giants, who everybody knew was going to struggle early, they easily could have laid an egg in week 1 division game. They didn't. They came out and dominated them. The Washington Redskins on the road, similar type of situation. Case Keenum actually had a pretty decent day, 230 so yards, passing, but they took care of business.
Yep.
Same thing against the Miami Dolphins. They took care of business and snuffed them out when they needed to, and they sit 3-0, and they have their biggest test of the season to date this weekend against the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. So we can lay all these platitudes on them right now. They're starting to hit a point in their schedule where these games are going to tell us a lot more about them than, we won the games we're supposed to win. Now win the games that they're kind of toss-ups in a lot of people's minds.